everybody, it's Armastus, and this is Armastus Live. We are live. How are you all doing? I hope you have had a wonderful week. I guess it's been a little while. I know videos aren't as much as we used to do, but that's for various reasons. I'm trying to take care of my mental health, making sure I'm getting enough rest, make sure I'm not doing any more of those 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Streams. That was a little rough on me, but that's okay. We're here because when we do a video, I can put a little bit more attention to it, and I can engage more with you all. I'll be a little more of sound mind, etc, etc, etc. Anyway, today's video, we are gonna do a Opus 13 ranking top 8 cards according to me, Armastus. Now, you may say, well, Armastus, we've had Opus 13 out in a while. I'm over here in Europe, and UK, and Japan. Well, to that I say, congratulations. I'm a little jealous, I know. Here in North America, we have not yet gotten Opus 13. Of course, FFTCG has their Opus, I got emails from them saying, here are the top cards for, the current weeks or whatever, and, they have a list there, but I'm not looking at that list right now. I'm going to rank the top 8 cards according to me, Armastus, what I think will be the top 8, what I think should be the top 8. A lot of it will be, of course, cards that I think are really good, but also cards that I just like in general. And so, take it all with a grain of salt. And we will do another video, follow-up video, maybe in a few more weeks after we actually get Opus 13 here in North America, and do a top 8 according to, we'll probably just use FFTCG as normal because that's what we typically do. Yeah, so anyway, before we go on, gotta mention betterhelp.com, mental health. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're being kind to yourself, to others. You're doing the right thing. I have links to betterhelp.com down in the video description. I am not a sponsor, maybe one day, but I'm not a sponsor. But before we get into anything further, I wanted to quickly, first off, thank everybody who has emailed me from the last video when I was asking you all to email me about your stories. And I want to break those down. I want to give advice and, try to deliver some sort of meaningful, tangible life lesson according to me, Armastus, and whatever wisdom and knowledge I've gathered, of course, to give to you all, and reminding you all that I am not a psychologist, a therapist, a lawyer, a financial advisor, etc, etc, etc. Please go out, be responsible, and find those professionals. But I have some stuff I think I'd like to share, and lessons I've gotten from others I'd love to share as well, and apply them to your stories, as well as applying them to my own personal stories that I will share as well. So thank you for those emails. For those of you who've shared your story, I'm going to treat them with the utmost respect, treat them respectable. I'm trying to break them down in more digestible ways for the stream. So be patient with me as I work on that. So that for the next stream, I have something I'm not just kind of rambling on, kind of like I'm doing right now. But anyway, the next thing I want to talk about. So I did listen the other day to a great podcast, and they were talking about overthinking. Now, I don't know about some of you all, but believe it or not, the summertime for me is actually a time where the weather brings me, the summer, springtime, it actually brings my mentality down. I know it's super opposite. It's like, oh, come on, Armastus, we just got over a long winter. How can it bring you down? Yeah, I know. I have the opposite effect. Actually, when it's more gloomy, well, I don't know if I don't want to use the word gloomy. I should say cloudy outside and rainy, especially here in the Seattle area, which is a great place for that. My mood is actually better in general, but as spring and summer come in, my mood sinks. And as part of that, as part of the depression and whatnot, I start to overthink. But I was listening to a great podcast about overthinking, some great life lessons I think I wanted to share with you all really quickly here. I take no credit to these analogies, of course. It was stuff I've heard on the podcast, but stuff I've learned in the past, and I think some of you have learned as well when it comes to overthinking. And one thing that we do tend to do is they use a great analogy of playing a soundtrack in our mind, and this soundtrack likes to repeat things like our failures, our faults, our struggles, why not to try something, why we shouldn't do something, where we failed, etc., etc. Just all the bad stuff. And it's super easy to think about, right? You all know what I'm talking about, right? It's the first thing we default to. It's probably, in some ways, it is just natural human nature to be really hard on ourselves, sometimes really hard on others. But the advice given here was creating a new soundtrack. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but the soundtrack can be created by reminding yourself of all the positive things, of the passions, of why you're trying the new thing, of the things you have succeeded, of the good things you've done for others, of the great relationships you've had, and not just having yourself remind yourself, but having other people in your life come in and remind you of those things, and then actively doing things to remind yourself of that soundtrack, whether it's writing it down, or perhaps there's something that reminds you of the goodness of it, and surrounding yourself with those kinds of things. And I just thought it was a great life lesson that I wanted to share with you all. And one of the other analogies that I really love they used also was how we whittle these cups with we whittle a cup with many handles on it, and this cup is filled with a lot of kind of negativity and like a lot of the bad things. And it makes it super easy to pick up that cup because there's just so many handles, right? We can just easily grab that cup. But the analogy was, well, it's so easy to do that because we default to those thoughts. Instead, working on creating or whittling a new cup, right? With yourself, but also with loved ones and with others or centered around you. And it takes time, right? You start with one handle and you keep whittling that cup and you add more and more handles. And eventually, the good stuff that's in that new cup makes it easy to pick up, and it's just, it's just a good way to start basically setting your mind and your attitude on that better path in life instead of focusing on the negatives, which is just it's just too easy for us to do that. Let's not do that to ourselves. Let's stop being hard on ourselves. Seriously. So if you're struggling with anything, if anything's holding you back, if you want to try something new, but you keep like repeating that bad soundtrack, try creating a new soundtrack. Go out and try it. What's the worst that's going to happen, by trying something new? And remember too, like I say all the time, you are wonderful, you're beautiful, you're loved. Let's not be so hard on ourselves. Surround yourself with people who care. Again, also, if that's hard, and I get there, I've been there, sometimes you don't really have anybody to surround yourself with. There are resources, and that's why I do mention betterhelp.com as well. And of course, you can always email me, armastuslife@gmail.com. I still want to know your story. So please share with me your story or whatever it may be. And even if you don't want me to share anything, just tell me, hey, Armastus, I don't want to share everything. But before I do share anything, I will also ask your permission as well. If I'm not sure, if it's not clear in an email, I'm not just going to blurt it out. But I will always be sure to hide identities, even with your permission of an email. If you say, hey, you can use my name, I'm still not going to use your name. I'm just going to play it extra safe. I want to be respectful to you. To others, and just do the right thing. So I'll always take your email, rewrite it in a more digestible way, and then hide identities, and etc. Anyway, let's move on. So please remember to like, to subscribe, to follow. Subscribe? That's what it is. No, follows over there on Twitch. Well, I guess if I'm ever on Twitch, follow me over there too. Let's jump into Armastus ranking top 8 of Opus 13 cards, shall we? All right, here we are. So I am super excited about Opus 13 stuff. Now, I've been looking, of course, just like many of you, over on FFTCG.com, looking at the tournaments that have been happening, looking at the new builds, and there has been some crazy stuff. And it's funny, I have to laugh. Mannequins, oh my gosh. Now I know they're powerful, and it's really unfair. Hey, what's up, Andy? It's good to have you here. Now, it's really unfair because you all know that I really hate the mannequin cards. Okay, all right. This is really bad. It is an aesthetic thing because they just look so terrible in the art. But they're great, powerful cards. Unfortunately, my list doesn't have mannequins on it, though I was close. I was super close to adding it. I do want to try the mannequin build, but I know I'm being ridiculous. I am being super duper silly. Let's jump into this list though, because we're not going to have mannequins on there. There's some other cool stuff that helped inspire this list of my personal top 8. Also, maybe 1 or 2 cards in there that may surprise you that I think should at least be in the top 8. So let's jump into it. And to start us off, we're going to start here with the Oracle of Light. Now, this card came out, of course, in the Shadowbringer starter set. It's a starter card. This card is ridiculous. It's so good, it's stupid. That's how good this card is. It's just stupid. So I was playing over the weekend with, of course, my dear friend Ari, who I play with, and testing this build because I am hopefully this time actually going to go to my very first tournament this Wednesday over at Zulu's. Check them out. I have their links in the video description as well. And this card is so incredibly broken. And why is it broken? Because of how easily it makes it, or how easily accessible it makes it to bring out cards like the Y'shtola card and Minfilia, for example. But of course, as we all know, when this card goes from the field to the break zone, it lets you choose one Job Scion of the 7th Dawn in the break zone. Just any of it. So you can do a thing which I found myself doing quite often with the build I was testing, was discarding the Y'shtola or this Minfilia card to help pay for the cost of Oracle of Light, bringing Oracle of Light out onto the field, using Oracle of Light to, attack with, but also to block with. So it's just this free blocker. And as a consequence to my opponent, just bringing out a card like Y'shtola, which again lets you bring out another Job Scion of the 7th Dawn, which is incredible. Or a card like Minfilia, which when it comes out to the field, and it's a backup, right? Some people, I kind of like at first misunderstood, thinking that I can only bring out forwards, but no, it's any Job Scion of the 7th Dawn card. So you can bring out that Minfilia backup and get two characters from the break zone and add them to your hand, which is just ridiculous. And so I love this card, Oracle of the Light, and I ended up ranking this at, I can't even remember. What did I put it at? I put it at rank number 7. That's what I did. So next up on the list, I was looking at the card Lightning. Now, I talked about Lightning before, and I'm a big fan of this card. I think, the art looks fantastic, but there's a unique thing about this card. So let's read it. What does Lightning do? When Lightning enters the field, you choose up to 2 forwards opponent controls or forwards in your break zone, and you remove them from the game. And when Lightning leaves the field, return each card removed by Lightning's ability to its owner's hand. Now, it's cost 7. Yes, maybe a hefty cost, right? That's a Shantoto cost, right? Super expensive. But here's the thing, right? If you're using this defensively to get rid of some powerful cards on your opponent's side of the field, like Philia or Veritas of the Dark, right? Or any kind of big behemoth of a card, what you're doing is you're just removing it out of the way to get out of the way so that you can freely either go in for an attack or just, disrupt your opponent's, momentum, cards on the field. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the word. But you're going to get them out of the way. And even if, for some reason, your opponent does get rid of Lightning, it's not a big deal because those cards are going to come right back to their hand. But on the upside to this, here's another part of this card, which I think is super important that we should not overlook, right? That first part is pretty obvious. Okay, remove 2 forwards, get them out of the way. But the second part here is the ability to just remove 2 cards from your break zone from play. Right, that is an ability that I think more and more as this game matures is going to be super vital to this game as a strategy. But Lightning is a great card in this. This reminds me so much of the earlier strategies like in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Right, just having the ability to remove powerful cards that perhaps aren't easy to get back into your hand or to bring back out on the field. In this case, return back to your hand to be able to use again. You can do cards like removing a Thancred, removing your Galgamish, removing a card like a Behemoth K, right? Like out of Opus 13, which is a super crazy card. And as soon as the Lightning is out of the way, you just get that +2, or I guess it would be a +1 in a sense. Well, no, it would be a +2. Yeah, it would be, or +1. I guess a +1 advantage, but you still gain some cards back, right? You can even, of course, the cards you've discarded to pay for Lightning to be brought on the field, you can get those cards back once Lightning is out of the way. So fantastic card. I'm looking forward to this card. I'm looking forward to the full art of this card. And I ended up giving Lightning here a rank number 3. So moving on the list, we've got, of course, Sarah. This card, seems like everybody's going crazy for this card, which makes sense. Looking deeper into the card, I haven't been able to play test many of these cards because they're just not out yet. But these search cards in general, I think, are fantastic. And so from a lot of the example builds that I saw on ffdex.com, and of course, just, when you go and you look at all the available cards, this card to search for, right? So Sarah lets you get a job for king, prince, or princess. I think it's not just a 4. I think it's in a character there. But it lets you search for a king, prince, or princess. And as we know, there's a lot of super powerful cards out there that have those jobs specifically. And of course, I put these 3 here that are super powerful. But we can't also ignore the fact that there's also top cards that you can search for, like Althea, Mew, Leo, Chaos Mobius, and Ash. These are also very powerful cards used in the meta, and some of them obviously are new cards. So cards that are just searchable, like lets you search for things, I think are super valuable, and I gave this card a rank number 5. Moving on, this card, Behemoth K. Behemoth K is disgusting. Now, this was tough. I think I gave this one a rank 2, which we'll see here in a second, but this one almost went to a rank number 1. Obviously, these are in no particular order, right? That I'm just kind of going through these here. But this card was tough because it was just sheer ability, and I think if we see more lightning builds rise in the meta, which I foresee happening, even with like that whole mannequin builds going on right now, Behemoth K, I think, is just one of those like powerful cards you just want to splash in. You don't need a whole lot. You can just use 1, right? And then you run like 1 lightning, so you can also get that Behemoth K back, because just 1 is pretty devastating. Possibly 2. Well, so Behemoth K, it says if it's chosen by a forward's ability, you just break that card, right? So there's already a consequence to your opponent to try to get rid of this card. It is a cost 5, so it's not even a high cost one. Lily West, hello, nice to have you here. Thank you for watching, for jumping in on the stream. So going on here in the description, it says when Behemoth K attacks, Behemoth K gains 3,000 power until the end of the turn, which is insane. So it's already going to go out to 12,000. I had to quickly do the math in my head. I was like 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to jump up to 12K, which is just ridiculous, right? It's just ridiculous until the end of the turn. And Behemoth K deals your opponent 1 point of damage just from declaring the attack. So whether or not your opponent blocks or not, it does not matter. It's going to deal that 1 point of damage no matter what. Now, if you receive 5 points of damage here, Behemoth K then gains haste, which is incredible, right? And Behemoth K, when Behemoth K is blocked, Behemoth K deals your opponent 1 point of damage as well. So just this card, the sheer brokenness of this card is just absurd, honestly. One thing I was thinking about on the ruling, and perhaps some of you could clarify on this, because this has this ability that when it declares an attack, it deals your opponent 1 point of damage. I am curious, does it also then deal an extra point of damage if the attack is not blocked? I'm a little curious on that, right? So does it do 2 points of damage? So is it giving your opponent the opportunity to only take 1 or 2 points of damage? Either way, you know what that means. It's super devastating, So again, even if they get rid of Behemoth K, which your opponent's going to go crazy to try to get rid of it, like I'd mentioned, you got cards like Lightning and Lid, which is going to bring the card right back, making it very difficult again for your opponent to deal with. And for that, I gave this card rank number 2. Moving on, Ultimacia, yes, a common card. Oh my gosh, Armastus, what are you thinking? Okay, hear me out, okay? Here's the thing. Ultimacia is a fantastic card. It's got these 2 abilities. When it enters the field, you can, your opponent discards 1 card from their hand. Obviously, it's your opponent's choice, but it discards 1 card from your opponent's hand. Or you can choose 1 character you control, 1 character, remember, so a forward or a backup, you control, and return it to its owner's hand. That you control your opponent's controls, right? So this card, in essence, has a Leviathan and an Argeth, in a sense, built into it, right? And it's water, ice, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's Water Ice is new in Opus 13. So that ability is super important. I think it's it can be easily ignored and forgotten about, the ability to bounce a card back. And just even if it's your opponent's, right, to get rid of it on the field is super important. But think about bouncing your own cards back, right? We think about cards like Renoa and all those kinds of cards, and then being able to play it. Oh, well, Renoa removes from play and brings it back. But we have cards like Althea and stuff that let you bring cards back and then into your hand and then play them again. And then you get those abilities again that says, you know, when blank enters the field, do blah, 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 blah. So the fact that this is only a 2-coster, a common card, I think it's a super great card. I think it belongs in rank number 6. Now, moving on, Daga. Personally, I love this card. Will it make a top 8 card? Maybe in the meta. I don't know. Here's the reason, though, why I love this card. I've been talking many times about Square Enix creating more and more cards that support a summon theme, right? Like when we think about the Final Fantasy video games, one thing that we all like to do is just the ability to just use these overpowered, incredible, kind of cool looking summon stuff, you know, all the time, and, you know, destroy our enemies. And I wanted to build a deck that's just like really, you know, I want to see decks that are just really focused on summons. Now, Daga, I think, is a good step in that direction. Also, it's a great looking full art card. This card does come in full art here as well. So what does Daga do? Daga says for every 3 summons in your break zone, Daga gains 1,000 power. Okay, that's pretty incredible. When Daga enters the field, you draw 1 card for each summon you discarded to cast Daga. So Daga can be essentially a free summon, right? Imagine you have 3 summons in your hand. You discard those 3. They go to the break zone. That's, you paid 6 already, right? And then you just play Daga, right? And then Daga immediately goes up to 8k, and then you're just gonna draw 3 cards, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And so what kind of cards can you use? Well, again, here's just a slew of amazing, overpowered summons that are already popular in the meta that you can use with Daga that are of the earth and water variant. But of course, you can use also, you know, others to pay the cost or to just have in your break zone. And, you know, Daga, the other thing is that when Daga attacks, if you have 9 or more summons in your break zone, you can cast 1 summon from your hand without paying the cost, which just adds on to that, which is super duper amazing here. So for that reason, I put Daga at 8 because I don't think it's going to be a super heavy meta kind of card, but perhaps a popular card in general. I don't know. I just really like it. I hope it at least makes top 8 according to FF decks. I guess I'm just kind of going based off of that. So the next card to talk about here is Mog, FFBE Mog, and this is a great cheap card, only costs 3 here, and it's a backup. What does Mog do? Well, Mog is another searcher. As I've always said, cards that let you search for cards, in my opinion, are super duper powerful. They are amazing. It's deck thinning, which lets you get quickly to the rest of your strategy. It lets you, you know, it's situational, you know, lets you help with a situation against your opponent. It's just overall just so good, right? So when Mog FFBE enters the field, you may search for 1 category FFBE forward and add it to your hand. Well, what kind of forwards can you look for? Here's some, for example, some super powerful stuff. The Behemoth K we just talked about, FFBE. Viridius of the Dark, super powerful card, been out for a while. You can search for that one. Fina, super popular, right? You can search for that. Citra, another super popular card in the meta. And then a new card, Kunshira, which is also featured in some builds with Opus 13 as well. Also searchable. I mean, Mog is just ridiculously good. And for that very reason, I put Mog at rank number 4. Now, last and certainly not least, you all know, I think maybe some of you know this was coming. It's Sophie, okay? This one was hard. This one was really hard because obviously it was kind of deciding between Sophie, Behemoth K, and there was a few others out there that I think may deserve the #1 spot. But here's the thing. To my understanding, monks used to be, so this is a job monk card, but in monks a long time ago used to be super powerful in the meta, I believe. They're making an insane comeback right now. The monk support in Opus 13 is redonkulous. Well, what does Sophie do that just like really encourages the monk builds again? So Sophie here is, for each earth forward other than Sophie you control, Sophie gains 2,000 power. Okay. Now, what else? For each water forward other than Sophie you control, Sophie gains 2,000 power. Okay. At the end of each of your turns, if Sophie has 10,000 power or more, you draw 1 card, and Sophie just deals your opponent 1 point of damage. Just for playing stuff, Sophie is just dealing your opponent 1 point of damage. Why is that important? Of course we know, because points, right? If you've been dealt 7 points of damage, or your opponent's been dealt 7 points of damage, you lose the game. This, without even attacking, it just has the ability, and this is why I also like Behemoth K, right? It's like, I'm just going to deal you damage. And if you go to ffdex.com and you look at some of the crazy monk builds that are being built right now, I think there's even a mannequin build that uses this right now. It's insane in how easy it is to bring out this very low cost forward that 4K, which in and of itself is pretty good. It's not bad. It's pretty decent. The fact that you're already gonna, you're always gonna get at least, well, I think you're always gonna have at least 7. It's gonna be at 6K, and on average 8. And I think, and then obviously, you know, just getting at 10K, I don't think it's gonna be a big problem. It's so easy to swarm with little cards. There's so many great little cards in the meta to just get Sophie out. And there's some great stuff I've seen being used. So again, let's look at things in the meta that is being used with Sophie. You get cards like Yuna, you get cards like Krill, cards like Porum, and then the card that also goes with the monk build is Sarah Mobius, which is another highly wanted card in the set here as well. I think the full art, because I think there's a full art of this card. I could be wrong, but I think there's a full art version of this card. So you run these cards with Sophie, and yeah, it's so redonkulous. It's incredible. I think Sophie also comes. Oh, see ya, Lily West. It's nice to have you here. Good night, Lily West here on the stream. So yeah. Anyway, back to what I was saying. These are my top 8 cards according to me. Armastus, right? Am I the best expert at this game? Probably not, but you know, I have an opinion just like anybody else, and here I am. Here are my opinions. Let me know though what you think. What are your top 8 gonna be out of Opus 13? And if you haven't thought about, like, if you've thought about it, and if you haven't, obviously just let me know. Let us know in the comments down below as well, or email it, but you know, preferably in the comments, share with others. I truly, well, I hope that this is the top 8. Really, I think the things that I just added on personally, obviously, were Daga and Ultimacia. And of those 2, I really hope to see Ultimacia on the top 8. But again, that's it. Good to see you all. Thank you for watching, for joining me. We will be back again, hopefully this week, with another stream. Until then, be safe, be kind. Remember, you're all wonderful, you're all beautiful, you're all loved. Until next time, bye-bye.